So if it were up to me, every 20-something-year-old would consider egg freezing, would learn about it, because that's when really her fertility is at her peak, when she'll do the best. Look at the total fertility rate around the world. Like if you look at South Korea, their total fertility rate dropped to 0.72. So they're not going to have enough people to replace their aging population. What keeps me up at night in terms of fertility are the young 30-year-olds with tons of healthy embryos when those embryos don't stick and their uterus appears normal. I think that is a question we haven't solved in the fertility world. Why do healthy embryos in healthy women with good uteruses not always stick? Why don't we also talk about fertility planning? Hey, do you want children? When do you think you want them? I think we need to remember that we don't only need to learn how not to get pregnant, we need to learn how to get pregnant. And there needs to be a shift in our health class, sex ed, or whatever it may be to really teach young women how hard it can be to get pregnant.
Dr. Knopman, what an honor to have you here today in person. First of all, congratulations on the launch of your new book. So exciting.
Thank you so much.
So let's start with what inspired you to write Own Your Fertility?
I'm asked that a lot because obviously as a busy clinician, a mom of 2 young kids, people are like, how did you fit the time in and why? I did it because I thought there was a real need in the space for accurate, relatable, digestible information for women so that they could make educated choices about their fertility. I joke around that I'm very loud. If you came to watch a soccer game, you would probably lose an eardrum, but I'm only as loud as the 4 walls of my office. So I had to find a way to elevate my voice, and I thought a book was a great way to do that.
So in a sea of all this fertility literature that is out there, what makes your book stand out?
I think, well, first of all, I think it's a girlfriend's guide, right? I wanted to take medical jargon, scientific studies, and make it so that people could understand it, even if they didn't have a medical degree. And I also wanted to make it well educated and well researched, right? Because there's a lot of data out there that we consume that may not be accurate. And so my goal was to make it accurate. And I also share patient stories because I think we learn better, or we accept information when we have likeness. And I think hearing other people's stories really resonated with a lot of readers.
Exactly. And as women, we're told how to get pregnant and how not to get pregnant. And, sex education, it's just not out there as much. So I love what you have to offer everyone. Can you share the pivotal moment of when you decided fertility medicine?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I tell the story. I was 8 years old. I was in the 2nd grade. I read a book about Elizabeth Blackwell, who was the first female physician. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Initially, I thought I wanted to do breast surgery. I worked at Sloan Kettering in New York City between college and med school. And I thought I want to take care of women who have breast cancer. But I got to med school and I realized, no, I really want women's health. I don't want just breast surgery. And then I went into OBGYN, which I loved. And from OBGYN was very fascinated by hormones, and that's how I went into reproductive medicine.
How do you define the biological clock and the misconceptions that sometimes surround it?
I think the problem is we think of fertility as a given, right? We don't think there's an end, and you think, I'm just going to have a baby when I want to have a baby and it's going to happen. But unfortunately, that is not true. And our ovaries are sort of tapped out long before our bodies, right? And so if we don't address that at younger and younger ages, we are going to suffer from infertility. So I say there's not a cliff, right? We're in the Olympics right now. It's not like you go off that ski jump and you're done. It's a gradual decline. So you go down slowly in terms of quantity and quality, but there's ample time during this gradual decline to address it and to take action.
So what trends have you noticed that someone is coming to you for fertility guidance?
I mean, my favorite, and it's probably because I'm the mom of 2 girls, are the moms and daughter consults, right? I'm seeing more and more 20-plus-year-olds come in with their moms, their aunts, their cousins to freeze their eggs. And that to me has been the most exciting change in my career. Women freezing eggs at younger ages, because then the eggs actually work when we need them.
And at what age do you believe that women should really consider having serious conversations about their fertility?
People are shocked when I say this, but I have told my daughters they're freezing their eggs when they graduate from college at 22. People have a very visceral reaction. But what I mean is our daughters graduate from college and we give them a gift, right? We send them on a trip. We buy them a watch. We do something for them. Why don't we help them plan their future, their fertility? Because we know most of them are not having kids in their 20s. So if it were up to me, every 20-something-year-old would consider egg freezing, would learn about it, because that's when really her fertility is at her peak, when she'll do the best.
And do you believe that women internalize their fertility challenges? And how can we shift this mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately there's a lot of shame, there's guilt, and there's self-blame, right? Because for so long, infertility wasn't seen as a disease. When somebody gets cancer, we don't tell them to just relax and not take chemotherapy, right? Of course we give chemo because that's how we treat cancer. But fertility people were often like, oh, just go on a vacation, just have a fun night with your partner. And it's so wrong because it's a disease that needs to be treated. And because we saw it as you need to relax, there was shame and there was guilt. We are doing better now at changing the narrative and saying this is a disease.
Can you get pregnant during perimenopause?
You can. You very much can. I mean, the chances are lower as we get older, as our quality and quantity declines. But as long as you're releasing an egg, you have a partner who has sperm, you have a tube that's open, and you have a uterus, you can get pregnant. It may not be at the same rate as it would be in your 20s, but it's still possible.
And how does aging affect the uterus? What are any implications, if any, regarding fertility?
I mean, the uterus is my favorite organ in the body because it's how amazing that it's small and then it grows and then it comes back. It's amazing. But the uterus does not age like the ovaries do. Now, that is not to say that the uterus is not impacted by gynecologic conditions that occur more frequently as we age, right? Think about fibroids. Women are more likely to get fibroids in their late 30s and 40s than in their 20s. But the uterus can be manipulated to do whatever we want it to do even after your periods have stopped.
Now, in your view, when should discussions about egg donors and surrogacy be brought up?
Those are very challenging conversations. And, I've been doing this now a long time. What I have learned is I got to read the room, right? When I was a junior physician, a young attending, I would be like, what do you mean? You need egg donor, you need surrogacy, because it was so obvious to me. But now I realize I have to tread lightly on these conversations because it's a hard pill to swallow. I need to figure out how best to get that woman or that couple there because I know that's the way they're going to have kids. But I can't be like, you need donor, because it's not going to help them get there.
What are the 3 top essential insights every woman should know about her fertility?
I think number one, we have to know that it's not a given, right? And unfortunately, it does not last forever. There is a short runway. I would say number 2, we do need to be more open with our moms, our grandmothers, our aunts, our sisters, because we tend to mimic our female relatives. And number 3, I think we need to remember that we don't only need to learn how not to get pregnant. We need to learn how to get pregnant. And there needs to be a shift in our, health class, sex ed, or whatever it may be to really teach young women how hard it can be to get pregnant.
So what questions should patients ask their healthcare providers early on regarding fertility treatments?
I think we, as OBGYNs, we need to bring this to the forefront of conversation, right? We talk about pap smears and cervical, health screening and mammograms. Why don't we also talk about fertility planning? Hey, do you want children? When do you think you want them? What are your next steps? And I think that needs to become a part of the conversation so that we can assess, check the AMH level. What is your mom's fertility so that we make the best decisions?
Now, during IVF, what causes some embryos to implant successfully while others don't? And what can be done to improve better outcomes?
I think number one, it's genetic makeup of the embryo, right? PGTA, pre-genetic testing for aneuploidy, has come a long, long way. And now our testing is so much better. So genetically tested embryos are much more likely to implant than non-genetically tested embryos. But what people say, what keeps me up at night in terms of fertility are the young 30-year-olds with tons of healthy embryos when those embryos don't stick and their uterus appears normal, right? I think that is a question we haven't solved in the fertility world. Why do healthy embryos in healthy women with good uteruses not always stick? There's a lot we don't know.
Mm-hmm. How long can eggs and sperm be safely frozen for?
As long as you want. I say your eggs will outlive you, right? So you need to make a plan. When's the line in the sand that if you haven't found a partner, you're going to use your eggs? Or if you and your partner have not decided you wanted children, you're going to not use your embryos. That's decisions need to be made because you'll get to be an age where it's unsafe to be pregnant.
So let's talk about the Chick Mission. You are the chief medical officer of the Chick Mission, and I love their organization. I've had Amanda Rice on my show.
I did not know that. Okay.
So for the listeners who don't know about the Chick Mission, tell us about them.
I love it. I'm a huge Amanda fan. I think I don't know if we're allowed to say this, but she's a badass, and I have so much respect for her. So the Chick Mission was an organization founded by Amanda Rice in 2017. In order to provide grants to women who are diagnosed with cancer and want to freeze their eggs ahead of cancer treatment. Now, a lot of the treatments we give to treat a woman's cancer will knock out their ovarian potential or knock out their ability to have a genetic child. And so we want to give them the opportunity to freeze eggs ahead of this. And it's a fantastic organization and one that I'm super honored to be a part of.
It's amazing. I love the way how you give yourself to service and you're so vulnerable and authentic with your patients. And I think that's why you build such a deeper connection with all your patients.
I actually think, it's funny, I'm the daughter of a psychologist. And I think what I learned from my dad is like, we need to be vulnerable with ourselves in order to let people into our lives. Now, people ask me all the time, did you have infertility? And I didn't. But I always say having breast cancer, I went through a divorce, like all of that made me a better doctor because I understood what it was like to be in these very unsettling conditions trying to move forward.
Now, as a breast cancer survivor and when you were diagnosed, how has this experience influenced your views on fertility?
I mean, I think it's just made me more empathetic. I think, when you're a resident or an intern, you're training, you're in the hospital, you're racing, you need to like do a checklist, like make sure everything's done. And that mentality holds through a lot of times when we're a doctor. So a patient's not pregnant, their embryos aren't good. You call them and you're like, you're not pregnant. You have to move through everything. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I remember thinking, whoa, I need some time to process this information. I cannot think about everything in, 15 minutes. So it's made me more patient and more able to sit back and take a deep breath and really go through that experience with patients because that's what patients need.
Do you believe we are experiencing a fertility or infertility crisis? And what evidence or trends inform your experience?
Yeah, I mean, we are. Look at the total fertility rate around the world. Like if you look at South Korea, their total fertility rate dropped to 0.72. So they're not going to have enough people to replace their aging population, right? Which is really bad for economy. If you saw France is releasing a letter to all 29-year-olds, educating them about their fertility because women are not having children at the same time. And that is really impacting the country's ability to grow and to build its economy. So we really need to get this message out.
Mm-hmm. And how have societal changes in recent years impacted fertility rates? What do you think are the key factors?
I think definitely it's education, right? Women have entered the workforce, education in numbers. I mean, we outnumber men in almost med school, law school, like colleges. And because of that, we're just having children later, right? And we're having fewer children. The way that we view families is also different, right? Millennials, there's less commitment sometimes. I even see it in my own practice. There's sometimes this swipe left, you're on a dating app and there's so much out there. You're like, I'll move on to the next person. So we don't marry the same way. We don't pick partners. We don't have as many kids. We're in and it's just all shifted.
What lifestyle factors do you recommend to your patients to enhance fertility?
Yeah, the lifestyle stuff for me, I give pause to because what troubles me is when you talk about fertility diets or fertility supplements, you're, in my opinion, a lot of times telling women it's their fault, right? You're saying, well, you didn't cut out gluten, so that's why you're infertile, or you didn't take CoQ10 and that's why you're infertile. I think we should all try and be the best version of ourselves at all points, but with grace, right? So should you eat a healthy diet? Of course you should, but you should always eat a healthy diet, whether you're trying to get pregnant, you're pregnant, or you're in menopause for 10 years. Should you take vitamins? We all should, right? What we need in those vitamins is different when we're 10 and when we're 50, but we still need vitamins. So I think we have to make that the message rather than this is the diet that gets you pregnant and this is the supplement that gets you pregnant, because it's not really true.
How do you see AI playing a big role in reducing costs and efficiencies in fertility treatments?
I definitely think there's a place for AI. I mean, even in my own career, I've seen dramatic shifts, right? When I was a resident, we had paper charts. We charted on paper. Like now I could never imagine doing that, right? So think about the computers. I think AI will help us. It'll definitely help perfect technology and techniques in the lab. You'll have robots doing things that humans used to do, but also in patient identification. There'll not be, two people witnessing alone anymore. It'll be automated, and that will definitely help us.
And are you optimistic about AI's potential to advance fertility treatments in the near future?
Yeah. I mean, I think that obviously we always get scared, right? There's like the influx and then you're like, is it too much? Do we pull back? But I think I do think there's so much potential for medicine in all fields, not only fertility.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Let's do a rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Supplements for egg and sperm quality, 1 to 10.
1 is the best, 10 is the worst?
Yes. Oh, no, one is the worst, 10.
10 is the best? Like I would give
10
it
is the best, yes.
Okay. I'm going to come down like 3. Yeah. I'm not super into them.
Ovulation tracking apps.
Oh, I'm not a fan of these. I give them also like a 2 or a 3. I think they make people way more anxious. I think maybe I'm going to go old school here, but oftentimes I'm like, just have unprotected intercourse like a couple times a week. Sperm lives in the reproductive tract for up to 5 days. So sure, if your partner's traveling or, you have limited time, but otherwise like have unprotected intercourse at regular intervals and you're covering your ovulation.
Eating sushi.
Oh, 10. I think it's fine.
Weightlifting.
10 plus. I'm like a huge fan of weightlifting.
Yeah.
Huge. I think strength training is so important. I myself really 3 years ago, I realized I got to do this. I'm in perimenopause and it's changed my life.
Sauna usage.
I think in moderation, I'm going to give it a 5. Would I tell a guy to get in the sauna every day? Absolutely not. But if you go in a sauna every once in a while, I don't think that's going to hurt you.
GLP, NAD, and peptides.
So GLPs, I think for women who need them, I think that's what they're there for. Unfortunately, like a lot of things in this country, they start to trickle down, right? And now people take GLPs to lose 10 pounds. And I'm not so on board with that, right? I think, unfortunately, it's hard to lose weight. We got to do the things that are sometimes hard, and maybe the quick fix isn't the best place. But I think for women who have chronic medical conditions or morbidly obese, they're a game changer. NAD, I can't say I have enough experience with. I know people are talking about it being beneficial for egg health, and I think that would be very exciting. I think to date, we just don't have enough data on it. What was the third one?
Peptides.
Oh, again, I can't say that I know a ton about peptides. I myself, I always use myself as an example. I have been an athlete for many, many years, had a horrible knee injury, and have tried everything supplement-wise to fix it other than getting a knee replacement. And unfortunately, like none of it's worked, right? I think at the end of the day, I probably just need the knee replacement. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to try it. Right. All you have to lose is time and money, I guess.
So switching gears, I like to ask all my guests what they like to do for self-care and mental health. What do you do currently?
I mean, I'm a pretty easy one. Have been a distance runner most of my life, although my knee has really taken me out. I'm a big fan of strength training. I have a community that I exercise with downtown. They're called The Limit. I love the women there. We're all super into fitness. I have 2 amazing daughters who are both fantastic athletes, and I spend a lot of time on the sidelines cheering them on.
Amazing. It's great that you change it up. I like hearing that. So, Dr. Knopman, tell our listeners where they can connect with you and where they can buy the book.
Sure. So I am on social media. I have an Instagram account, Dr. Jaime Knopman. I spell my name Jaime. I tell my parents all the time they really did me in by doing that. Because everyone spells it wrong. And then my book is called Own Your Fertility. You can purchase it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here today. I had a great conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to meet you and to be here and join you on this episode.